Oh, forgive me. I was looking through my letters. Don't you hate it when you misplace something? Oh, but you've come to visit me tonight. My name is Geraldine. Geraldine Livingston Morgan Thompson. That sounds very important, doesn't it? Well, I am the descendant of some very important families, including the so-called Lords of Livingston Manor. And on my mother's side, my great-great-grandfather, Morgan Lewis, Governor Morgan Lewis, is buried over there under the infamous bathtub. And my father was Morgan. What more could you ask for? I was born in New York City in 1873. My parents, William Dare Morgan and Angelica Livingston Hoyt, owned a beautiful townhouse on Washington Square. I shared my childhood with two sisters and a brother. You met Ruth and Gerald last year.
Yes.
And Margaret was here, right here, several years ago. Margaret Lewis Morgan Norrie. I endowed the park in her name up the road a bit, Norrie Point Park, right? You've all been there. We had an idyllic childhood. It was between our townhouse in New York City and Statsburg. And when we were here in Statsburg, we were surrounded by our cousins, and we could run from our wonderful house, Stonehurst, to theirs through the woods. Sadly, our home was destroyed by fire in 1965 when it was being used by Anderson School. I read about it in the newspaper. But we had many, many happy memories of Statsburg, including in 1896, I married my first love, Louis Steenrod Thompson. He was the wealthy son of William Payne Thompson, who had fought for the Confederacy and was treasurer of Standard Oil. We bought a farm, an 800-acre farm in Monmouth County, New Jersey. We named our farm Brookdale, and we raised 9 children there, 4 of our own and 5 orphaned relatives. But my dear Louis was a true son of the South. And in 1913, he built a plantation in Sunnydale called Sunnydale in Florida. And he spent a great deal of the year there doing sporting activities. Now, I was an excellent sportswoman, especially riding and tennis, but for me, the South ended at New Jersey. And of course, all Morgan children were raised to be activists. Margaret was a suffragist, Ruth worked for peace, and I worked for social reform of antiquated county and state welfare agencies. I was especially involved in anything that applied to the welfare of women. And I was drawn to those issues involving the mental health and care of women. You see, I was born during Victoria's reign, when depression in women was treated with opioid-laced tonics and hysterectomy. By the time I moved here in 1967, Thorazine and its relatives had changed the entire face of psychiatric care. Like my mother, Angelica, I donated scholarship money to nursing schools and to psychiatric institutions. But I was also the first woman delegate from New Jersey to a national convention. And I was the first woman appointed to the New Jersey State Board of Institutions and Agencies, and I served 8 consecutive terms. It earned me the title First Lady of New Jersey. I continued my activity in prison reform, and I was often accompanied by a great friend. Despite our different political affiliations, Eleanor Roosevelt and I spent a great deal of time in prison together. She referred to me often in her newspaper column, My Day, and said that I often described myself as being 1,000,000 years old. It was through prison reform that I met the second great love of my life, Miriam Van Waters. Miriam was the daughter of an Episcopal priest, so we shared the same religion as well as the same interests. We were both committed to improving the lot of women who had suffered because of their social systems or mental health. She was a brilliant woman. She had a doctorate in anthropology from Clark University. She was superintendent of the Massachusetts Reformatory for Women. And when she was exhausted and depressed by work in prisons, I would have her to rest and recover at Brookdale, our farm in New Jersey. Of course, after Lewis died in 1936, we traveled together, both for pleasure and for work. We frequently attended conferences on prison reform with Mrs. Roosevelt. When we were not together, we wrote beautiful letters to each other. That's what I was just looking for. We called each other dearest love and pledged love and friendship to each other. Oh, she destroyed most of those letters. I just remembered. She was afraid if they were found, they could affect us socially and politically. But it doesn't matter, because it isn't things that we hold on to, it's memories. Thank you so much for being here and allowing me to share my memories of a truly rich life with you. In 1967, when I was 94 years old, I moved here with these glorious families. And I wish you joy, love, and a wonderful evening. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.